The cell. In this video, we will talk about the cell structure, function of the cell, and transport in and out of the cell. To begin with, all cells are tiny. As they increase in size, the surface area and volume also increase. So, complex organisms consist of tiny cells carrying out different functions instead of having large cells carry out those functions and taking very long. There are two types of cells. Prokaryotic lack a nucleus, while eukaryotic have a nucleus. Both have DNA, cell membrane, cytosol, and ribosome. Now we'll be talking about the organelles and their function. Nucleolus is found within the nucleus where ribosomes are synthesized according to the instruction from DNA. The ribosomes are in the cytoplasm and make protein. Peroxisomes are both plants and animals. They convert H2O2 into water and release the O2 atoms. They also detoxify alcohol liver cells. Endomembrane system regulates the protein traffic and performs metabolic functions in the cell, like the nuclear envelope, Golgi apparatus, and lysosomes. The nucleus contains chromosomes wrapped in a chromatin network and is surrounded by a selectively permeable nuclear envelope that separates the contents of the nucleus from the cytoplasm. The endoplasmic reticulum has two different structures. The rough ER is studied with ribosomes and produces proteins. The smooth ER has three functions. It assists synthesis, stores calcium ions in the muscle cells, and detoxifies drugs and poisons from the body. The Golgi apparatus is near the nucleus and it processes and packages substances in the ER and secretes the substances to other parts of the cell. Lysosomes are sacs of hydrolytic enzymes, and as the cell renews itself by breaking down and recycling cell parts, lysosome is used. The mitochondria has an outer double membrane called the cysta and has its own DNA, and it's constantly dividing and fusing with other cells to exchange DNA. Macula are membrane-bound structures used for storage. The chloroplast contains green pigment which absorbs light energy and synthesizes sugar, and it can be found in plants or in algae. The cytoskeleton is a complex mesh of protein filaments that extend throughout the cytoplasm and maintains the cell's shape, controls position of organelles within the cell by anchoring them to the plasma. It is involved in the flow of cytoplasm, and it anchors the cell in place by interacting with extracellular elements. Included in the cytoskeleton, we have the microtubules and microfilaments. Microtubules are hollow tubes made of protein tubulin that makes up the cilia phalange and spindle fibers. The cilia phalange moves cells from one place to another, and the spindle fibers help separate chromosomes during mitosis and meiosis. The microfilaments are assembled from actin filaments and help support the shape of the cell. It enables animal cells to form a cleavage furrow during cell division, enables amoeba to move by sending pseudopods, and enables the skeleton muscles to contract as they slide along the myosine filaments. Centriosomes and microtubular organizing centers are non-membrane structures outside the nucleus membrane. They organize spindle fibers and give rise to spindle apparatus required for cell division. Plant cells lack cytosomes but have mTOC. The cell walls are included in plants and algae, and it's made out of cellulose. Fungi cell walls are made out of chitin. Primary cell wall is immediately outside the plasma membrane, and some cells actually have a secondary cell wall which has a gluey layer formed between the two new cells called the middle lamella. The plasma membrane is a selectively membrane that regulates the steady traffic that enters and leaves the cell. Eukaryotic plasma membranes consist of a phospholipid bilayer with proteins dispersed throughout the layer. Integral proteins have nonpolar regions which span the hydrophilic region. Peripheral proteins are loosely bound to the surface of the membrane, and cholesterol molecules are embedded into the interior of the bilayer to stabilize the membrane. They also have a wide range of functions which include transport, which uses electrons, ions, and molecules, pumps, carriers, and electron transport chains to manufacture ATP, enzymic activity, which is one membrane-bound enzyme, and adolate cyclase, which synthesizes cyclin AMP from ATP. Signal transduction is the binding sites of proteins. Receptors fit chemical messengers like hormones. The protein channels shape and relays the message up to the inside of the cell. Cytosol recognition from glycoproteins serve as identification flags that are recognized by other cells. Cell-to-cell attachments, such as demosomes, gap junctions, and tight junctions. Attachments to the cytosol and extracellular matrix helps the cell maintain its shape and stabilize the location of certain membrane proteins. And transport into and out of the cell. Transport is the movement of substances in and out of the cell, and it can either be active or passive. Passive transport is the movement of molecules down a concentration gradient from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration until equilibrium is reached. Some examples include diffusion and osmosis. There are two types of diffusion, simple and facilitated. Simple does not involve protein channels, while facilitated does. And simple is a simple case of diffusion is called counter-current exchange, which is a flow of adjacent fluids in opposite directions that maximizes the rate. And facilitated requires a hydrophilic protein channel that will passively transport specific substances across the membrane. Active transport is the movement against the gradient, which requires ATP. Proteins or carriers carry particles across the membrane by active transport, and the contractile vacuole in freshwater protista pumps out excess water that has diffused inward. Exocytosis is the nerve cell occurs in exocytosis in nerve cells occurs as vesicles release neurotransmitters into the synapse. Panocytosis is the uptake of large dissolved particles. Phagocytosis is the engulfing of large particles or small cells. Receptor-mediated endocytosis enables a cell to uptake large quantities of very specific substances. Thank you.